Thank you, everybody, for attending the virtual Christmas summit. This session is Jason Rasmussen on perfect sound, perfect show, audio, and FM transmissions. If everybody except for Jason can turn off your video and turn off your audio, that'd be great. If you have questions, you can put the questions in the chat and take it away.
My name is Jason Rasmussen, and I am from Anaheim, California. I've been doing synchronized light display since 2017, and it is an Anaheim Beautiful award-winning show. I love theme parks, electronic music, hiking and camping. And fun fact, I did dance in Disneyland's Very Merry Christmas Parade from 1997 to 1989. And yes, you can find televised footage of me out there. And I'm there in the middle, Cubby the Bear on the left. So, too long, didn't read. You're probably watching this close to your showtime, watching it recorded, and you just plug it in, turn a dial, and you hear the sound, right? And you're good to go, right? No, you spend all year on your display, but you can't be bothered to watch a 1-hour video on improving your audio, which is literally half your show and very critical. Can you at least spare me 6 minutes? But again, please do watch this entire presentation to get the most out of your audio. You've spent all year building your display, 3D printing essential items, sequencing. Who am I kidding? You likely don't sequence yourself. Going to Home Depot again and again and again. And your lights look absolutely beautiful. But oh no, it's a week from showtime and I forgot all about the audio. And it sounds like this. Or like this. Or like this. Audio is literally half your show, often an afterthought, and one can't be bothered to watch an hour video on audio and FM transmission. Link in description below, and you really should watch it. You've come to the right place. Nothing sponsored, no affiliations. I just want your display to sound as good as it looks. Oh, look. The older Pis have audio out. I'll just use this. Guess what? It's trash. But I run Xscheduler and my computer has a headphone out. Generic. Trash. My device doesn't have an audio out. What am I to do? Upgrade your sound card with the Creative Sound Blaster. Creative has been making high-quality audio devices with custom chips for decades. They know PC audio, and the difference is night and day. Don't settle for generics. But onboard sounds fine. You didn't get into this hobby to do things fine or half-baked. Audio is something you need to hear the difference yourself. Don't cheap out on $19. Well, I'll just use this cheapo USB adapter. Generic audio. Trash. But this is a few bucks cheaper. Cheap USB. Trash. Onboard and generics output sound. Yes, but not quality sound. If using one of these Culp boards, they use a TI DAC which also outputs quality sound parity to the Sound Blaster, so you're good to go on the audio out. If using a BeagleBone, Pi 5, Zero, or Hat, USB audio is your only choice. Get the Sound Blaster Play 3. If not in stock, alternatives can be found here. Wouldn't be the first time I've had Amazon go out of stock. Power off, plug in, turn on, select the Sound Blaster. Keep the volume at 70 and leave it. Add a 5-second boot delay if the sound card isn't showing up. Still not showing up or it goes away? You probably have an overpowered FM transmitter or an underpowered Pi. Plug in your audio source to output. Speaking of power, if a Pi or BeagleBone is underpowered, expect weirdness. Use official Pi power supplies whenever possible. Ditch random power supplies and cables for quality ones. Too many USB devices sucking power and causing weirdness? Get a powered hub. FM will be the best way to broadcast quality, no latency audio. And no, FM isn't going away. Bluetooth is narrowcast will always introduce a delay, and phone speakers will never compare to actual speakers. These are the most common FM transmitters in our hobby, which can be obtained. All have their pros and cons, but if you just want an out-of-box experience, the half-watt Sign Stack or equivalent is a good choice. Don't ever buy a higher wattage unless you want problems.
If I bring them up close to my FM transmitter, they start to go crazy.
If using a Sign Stack half watt, set to low power. Rolls and FM board transmitters have no power adjustments. Pro tip, buy a second for a backup. RDS for song info? I don't even bother. Use your Remote Falcon to show what is playing, artwork, show information, vote for songs, and more. Some don't come with antennas, and if supplied, they generally are not that great. And cutting a random length of wire is even worse. For a great inexpensive antenna that can be built in an evening, see John Creed's dipole antenna design. Mount your antenna higher and no obstructions to increase range and signal strength. Think line of sight. Use quality shielded cables, but audio cables are no substitution or fix for generic sound cards or bad audio levels. Using an FM transmitter and outdoor speakers, audio splitters are fine, so are Ethernet baluns for long runs. You can run audio cables 50 feet or more without issue. Just don't run alongside Pixel or power cords unless you love unintended techno remixes. If using speakers, I recommend outdoor Polk or Klipsch. Dual if on a budget. Use an amplifier, Do not power directly. Drock offers affordable, quality amplifier boards powered by 12 volt. Alternatively, find a cheap home theater receiver at thrift shops. You can even make your own push for music with a Drock timer. Buy your MP3s from Amazon. Don't rip your audio from YouTube. If you can't afford $1 for quality MP3 files, you're in the wrong hobby. MP3 gain and normalization will help optimize audio files. MP3 gain will not fix your show's audio in just one click, nor will it make all songs have the same volume. I'm not saying don't use it. Use it, but understand what it does and what it does not do, as it's just one part of having good audio. This is very important. Don't skip this part. Optimizing your gain levels is crucial so you have the strongest audio signal without distortion. Also, don't guess. Regardless of what some rando person online says, don't put FPP at 50 and the volume dial at halfway and call it a day, as your levels will be less than optimal or introduce distortion. Instead, use science. If using FPP, leave it 70. If using a computer, set volume at 100. Leave these settings here. You're not going to be changing them. We are going to use a 0 dB 100 Hz test tone. This audio file is at the maximum volume level without distortion. Any distortion downline is easy to hear with bass. Generate one in Audacity or download here. Play the 100 Hz test tone from FPP or your computer on a loop. Get your in-listening device, such as car radio if broadcasting, or external speakers, and put around 25% volume. This doesn't have to be exact. With the 100 Hz test tone playing, slowly turn up the gain on your FM transmitter till you hear distortion on the in-listening device. Once you hear distortion, back the gain down until you hear no more distortion. Now leave this set here. Done! You've optimized your audio gain and can now turn up your in-listening device. If you're using the FM board, you can skip optimization as inputs are set digitally, so leave it 26. I can't cover much troubleshooting in this short video, you lazy bum. Watch my longer video, but the most common issues I see are in this order: underpowered Pi or BeagleBone, overpowered or underpowered FM transmitter. Using an FM transmitter greater than half a watt and have issues? You were warned. Here's a bucket for you to cry into. No crying in the online forums. Gain levels not set properly or set randomly by some rando online recommendation. Using generic or onboard audio and not a creative sound blaster. Poor antenna or antenna location. Too many USB devices or underpowered USB hub dropping the sound card, or 1 gig USB hub causing audio interference. In conclusion, creative sound blaster. Quality audio files, normalize if needed. Quality FM transmitter, an antenna mounted high and unobstructed. Quality cables. Don't underpower your FPP or use an overpowered FM transmitter. Optimizing gain levels. And check here for the updated hardware list. And you're all set. Your show sounds as good as it looks. Crack a cold one, enjoy the show, and have a Merry Christmas. All right, so that's for everyone who can't spend an hour to watch the video. At least you can lead with that and get a general idea of what you need to do, and hopefully that'll inspire you to watch the rest of it. So George Lucas said the sound and music are 50% of the entertainment in a movie. I mean, just imagine watching his movies without sound. Your display looks good, but does it sound good? Sound is very important in our displays and is often overlooked. Do you have poor audio, distortion, static, flat, undynamic sound, or audio issues? Quality audio is a lot more than just getting an FM transmitter. And the differences in visuals are easy to see, but with audio, you need to hear the difference yourself. And you don't have to spend a ton of money to get good audio. Audio questions always come up before the lights go on. So a little intro on this. Audio differences must be heard yourself and be heard on proper equipment. And due to varied listening devices, Zoom and YouTube compression, I will mainly use visual comparisons. Here's a URL and a QR code for the up-to-date list of all shared equipment and all links in this presentation. So as long as you have this, you'll get a link to everything. You don't have to write down anything else. This presentation is simplified and it cuts to the chase. My 2021 Virtual Christmas Summit has more of the audio details. I go into a little bit more details on that if you want to watch that. And I have no royalties or affiliations from any of the recommended products here. So let's talk about some sound essentials 101. Decibels. This is the measure of a sound level. And why it's important, this keeps the audio at the right loudness without distortion. And 0 dB, this is the loudest point without distortion, with negative values being quieter. And exceeding 0 dB will cause clipping. What's clipping? Clipping is when audio exceeds 0 dB, and this will cause distortion. And you want to keep your audio levels below 0 dB to maintain your sound quality. And then gain. This controls the input level of audio. you want to make sure you have proper gain. So if you have too much gain, you're going to end up clipping. So you can see on the right-hand side, we have part of an audio. It's not clipping yet, but then later on the song, it is clipping. Too little gain, your audio levels are not optimized, so you're not getting the most out of your sound. And clipping can also occur with incorrect audio, gain, and FM settings, or arbitrarily setting gain dials or volume levels. Signal to noise ratio, or SNR. This is the ratio between the signal, which is good, and the noise, which is bad. And noise can come from many places. You can have poor audio sound card or an audio file. You can have poor equipment or cables, electrical interference, and then gain and SNR. Proper gain increases the signal strength and reduces the noise, thus improving your signal to noise ratio. More signal, less noise. And also, it's easier to avoid noise than to remove it later. Like the phrase goes, garbage in, garbage out. Normalizing. This amplifies the loudest part of an entire audio file to peak at 0 dB. This maximizes the signal without altering the dynamic range. Even professional audio may be too quiet and need normalizing. And I've seen that in some of my shows. Some of the songs that I've purchased, they're like way too low. Normalize audio with Audacity or use MP3 gain, and this is also built into FPP. Couple notes on MP3 gain. This normalizes without recompressing, so it will preserve the quality, unlike Audacity, which will recompress and may reduce quality. But also with MP3 gain, it can also reduce the gain on otherwise perfectly fine audio files to try to achieve a similar volume. There's a myth going out there that MP3 gain will make all the songs have the same volume. It's not going to. It will amplify quieter songs, but it's not going to fix your audio in one click, and it's no substitution for optimizing your audio. Equalization. This is used primarily to compensate for inadequacies in the final output or emphasize certain frequencies. I would recommend using it sparingly or not at all. If you're broadcasting FM to cars, I recommend leaving it off or flat. But if you are using an external speaker setup, just go ahead and adjust the EQ to your liking, but only do this after you've optimized your levels. So sound cards. Basic audio is poor audio. The Raspberry Pi, inexpensive generic USB sound cards, and the built-in onboard sound cards on computers, laptops, whatever, will almost always use the same poor audio chipsets. While they may output sound, they don't output quality sound. And it's easy and inexpensive to upgrade your sound card. Creative Labs sound cards, they provide superior audio, surpassing generic and onboard audio. And it will output sound identical to the original audio, full and vibrant, unlike other sound cards. In some cases, USB audio is going to be your only choice, like if you're using a laptop, a Pi 5, Pi Zero, or a Pi Hat, or even a BeagleBone. The Sound Blaster Play 3 is by far and away the clear winner in audio quality and signal strength. And at $19, it's a no-brainer light show upgrade. If you cheap out on this, you're in the wrong hobby. Side note, the Sound Blaster Play 4, which is out there, that's not compatible with FPP, but you're okay using that on a PC or a Mac. So sound cards, if you're using a Culp, this one has a TI DAC built on. The following Culp boards use a quality TI or Texas Instruments DAC, which is on parity with the Sound Blaster Play 3. So if you're using one of these boards right here, you're good to go on the audio out, but you can still use the Sound Blaster Play 3 if you choose. And then in FPP, go ahead and select this device, the PCM5 102A. So installing the Sound Blaster on a Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone, make sure you always have the latest version of FPP. Go ahead and turn it off, and then plug in the Sound Blaster Play 3, and then go ahead and turn it on. And then in settings, you want to go to audio video and select the Sound Blaster Play 3 as the audio output device. Then restart FPPD. And then set the volume to 70. That's going to be the default. Make sure you leave it at 70. It's very important, or you will clip. And then plug the audio into the Sound Blaster headphone out. And the newer boards can boot FPP too quick to load the USB sound cards. In that case, add a 5 to 10 second boot delay in the FPP settings system. On PC and Mac, go ahead and plug it in, install the software from Creative's website, and then they have extra software in there. It's SBX Pro Studio. Go ahead and turn that off Smart volume is optional, so you can turn that on. I'll talk more about that later. And I recommend leaving the EQ at flat. Normal gain and the volume at 100%. And then plug the audio output into the Sound Blaster. Now, if you're using Xscheduler for a PC or Mac and you're using the Sound Blaster control panel or the Creative app, you have a couple other options for you. On a PC, use the Play 3 or Play 4. If you're using one of the newer ARM Macs, you need to use the Play 4. It does have a built-in equalizer on the Play 3. You can choose if you want to use that. And on both of them, they do have a smart volume. This is a dynamic audio compressor. This will raise or lower the audio to a more even level on the fly. No need to normalize or MP3 gain any of your audio files. This is a true one-click way to make all your audio have the same volume. It will affect the dynamic range, but some may prefer how this sounds. It can help hide any noise inherent to FM transmission using the dynamic compressor. It's what FM radio stations do on their music. So FM transmitters. FM or speakers is still the best way for no latency audio, and no, FM is not going away. They're not removing it from cars. Total myth, it's going out there. These are the most common FM transmitters that are used in our hobby and are still sold, and all have their pros and cons. For the different radios, I would recommend matching the pre-emphasis with your region for the best audio quality, but they will all work in all regions. Couple notes on each one of the transmitters. So on the Rolls HR70, within the same model, I've noticed a bunch of differences on some of them. The antenna connector, they could have a BNC, which is a larger connector, or an SMA, which is a smaller connector. In the end, they both do the same thing. On some of them, they have a 15-volt power, and then other ones have a 15-volt power and USB power, but that's not for audio. It's just for power. On these, they do have lower power, so you are going to have a reduced transmission range. It is going to offer the best audio quality for North America, but you will need to supply a good antenna to overcome the range issues because it does transmit at a lower power range. You will also need a 3.5 millimeter stereo to RCA cable and plug it into the line in. On the SignStack half watt, these can go out of stock and are pricier near Christmas. Hashtag Rasmussen effect, it happens, or the supply chain issues. There are clones such as the CZE-05B, Reticus TR508. Those should be fine. I've seen other people use them and they've had good luck with those. Don't buy higher wattage models. Those sometimes you can easily find better. Don't buy them. Avoid the higher wattage ones. Also on these, you're going to want to change the power adjustment. By default, it's going to be half a watt, but we're going to want to change that to a lower wattage. So this is how you do it. You press and hold down the power button as you plug in the AC power. And then the LCD will show low power or high power. So you can go ahead and select up or down for that. And I recommend to use low power. And then you can toggle between low and high with the up and down and press power to set. And here's a little short video how to do that. There you go. So power is unplugged, holding down power, plugging it in, low, high, go back to low, set it with power. Boom, you're done. So the FM board on this guy. This is great to have as a spare FM transmitter. It's compact, portable. So if you have a portable display, this works really well. The input is set digitally, so leave it at 26. And you will need to solder an antenna and power as noted below. And while it is a good FM transmitter, the USB sound card is poor. So only use as a line in. Do not use it as a USB audio device. Remote Falcon. This thing is definitely better than RDS. This thing's great. If you're not using it, I highly recommend you use it. With Remote Falcon, this will give you a website that will show anything you want for your show. You have a custom viewer page, which gives you pictures, hours of show, title of the song playing. It's also interactive. You can request sequences or vote for the song you want next. Remote Falcon is definitely better than RDS. RDS is the radio data system. Not all cars have RDS. And there are not many good FM transmitters with RDS, and the data that is displayed is pretty limited. And no, it doesn't stream audio, but even if it could, you want your show playing on the little 20 millimeter speakers or with Bluetooth latency? No. So antennas. A dipole is superior to stock antennas and a cheap dangling wire. This will increase range and reduce static drops. But again, your location may vary. Every location is totally different how radio waves are affected. It does not improve audio fidelity. Use the Sound Blaster and optimize gain levels. And you can mount this inside, outside, your roof, your chimney, etc., higher is better. On the right-hand side, I actually have mine mounted in my garage, but I'm really close to my viewers, so it's not a big deal. Plus, if I put it on the roof, the wife approval factor wouldn't go too well. So it works perfectly right there. John Creed has an excellent easy dipole antenna build with PDF instructions. Check his website. You can build it in the evening, a short little trip to Home Depot, and you're going to have way better range and coverage using a dipole antenna. Feel free to use any antenna adapters or extension cables as you need. So if you want to put it on the top of your roof, go for it. And also, there are many other types of antennas that are out there. So there's a J pole, but with this dipole, it's an easy build with outstanding results. So here's a couple of range tests. So this is the Rolls HR70 with just a dipole antenna. You can see the range right there. It's like I get just enough range right there with my viewers. If I am using the SignStack half watt on low power with the built-in antenna, get a little bit more range right there. And then if I throw that SignStack on the dipole antenna, I get much better range. So yeah, the antenna is going to definitely help you out there. So what FM station do I use? You want to find an available FM frequency. I'm in Southern California, so I got a ton of FM frequencies out there. There's this radio locator website, and you just type in your address and it'll say, hey, here are ones that you could try, here are better ones. But keep in mind that what's listed may not be the best, so test it for yourself. In my case, 89.1 was the best frequency, which listed as the third best channel, but it'll give you a good idea of which channels you can use. Keep in mind that some cars have trouble picking up lower FM channels, such as 87.5 or 87.7. So to help avoid this, use only 88.1 up to 801 FM. And only transmit as far as you need. You don't want to interfere with other stations or raise the eye of the FCC, and even a half watt transmitter in low power can transmit for blocks or miles. So optimizing gain levels. Okay, seriously, guys, don't skip this one. This is very important. Non-optimized gain levels can result in distortion and noise, loss of audio levels, and future problems. You may hear them later. Using a test tone is the easiest way to optimize audio levels. 100 hertz, 0 dB test tone. This is the maximum audio output without distorting. There's nothing magic about this audio file or the tone. It's just a good tone that you can easily hear. And if you hear distortion at any other point in your test, it's clipping. Use a 30-second sample, which you can generate in Audacity, or you can download here from the link, same link that I have in every slide. So optimizing levels. Here's a visual representation of what happens with levels. If your gain levels are too low, you have less signal and more noise. If your gain levels are too high, this can lead to clipping and distortion. And some parts may sound fine, other parts are not going to sound fine. With optimized gain levels, you are maximizing your gain without distortion. This gives you more signal and less noise. So let's prep our sound card. In FPP, what you want to do is to select the Sound Blaster as the output, or if you're using the Culp, select the PCM 5102A, and then restart FPPD. Set the volume at 70, that's the default, and any higher, you will clip. So make sure you leave that at 70. And if you have a PC and Mac with the Sound Blaster, select Sound Blaster as your default audio out. With the SBX Pro Studio, make sure you have that off and turn Smart Volume off, leave EQ as flat. We want to give it a fair comparison there. And then you can turn on Smart Volume later after you optimize your levels. Make sure the gain is set to normal and the volume at 100%. If you want to be safe, you can set it to 95. Now, if you have a generic audio or if you have no other option, and that's all you have right now, the first thing you need to do is order a Sound Blaster. And while you're waiting for it to arrive, go ahead and set the pi to 100%. And then if you have a generic onboard audio, set it to 100%. You can have it lower if you need. And then leave these settings, as you will not be adjusting them any further. And then we want to prep the FM receiver. So on the FM receiver, turn all your levels to 0 and the input gain to 0. On the FM board transmitter, set and leave at 26. So you're good to go on that one. And then take a car or your loudspeakers, wherever you're going to be hearing it from. And then turn the final volume up to around 25, 50%. Doesn't have to be exact. Turn off any EQ, bass, treble enhancements if possible. And then we're going to optimize our audio levels. So I have a short little video right here from the, sorry, my kid is jumping in on me right now. So now we're going to optimize our audio levels, and I'm just going to replay a clip that is from the video that will give you a nice visual representation on how to do it and also have audio at the same time. This is very important. Don't skip this part. Optimizing your gain levels is crucial so you have the strongest audio signal without distortion. Also, don't guess. Regardless of what some rando person online says, don't put FPP at 50 and the volume dial at halfway and call it a day, as your levels will be less than optimal or introduce distortion. Instead, use science. If using FPP, leave it 70. If using a computer, set volume at 100. Leave these settings here. You're not going to be changing them. We are going to use a 0 dB 100 Hz test tone. This audio file is at the maximum volume level without distortion. Any distortion downline is easy to hear with bass. Generate one in Audacity or download here. Play the 100 Hz test tone from FPP or your computer on a loop. Get your in-listening device, such as car radio if broadcasting, or external speakers, and put around 25% volume. This doesn't have to be exact. With the 100 Hz test tone playing, slowly turn up the gain on your FM transmitter till you hear distortion on the in-listening device. Once you hear distortion, back the gain down until you hear no more distortion. Now leave this set here. Done! You've optimized your audio gain and can now turn up your in-listening device. If you're using the FM board, you can skip optimization as inputs are set digitally, so leave it 26. And there you go. With your levels optimized, now you can just go ahead and turn off your final listening device, your speakers, your car radio, and it's going to sound nice, clean, and clear. So here's some miscellaneous audio tips. Bluetooth. Bluetooth always comes up. Just don't use Bluetooth. It's going to have too much latency that you can never overcome. All Bluetooth audio is recompressed, and it's going to add latency. And some Bluetooth speakers will have an aux input or an FM tuner. If you have one of those, use that instead. Don't use the Bluetooth. And never, and I mean never, sequence with Bluetooth headphones. Your sequences will always be out of sync. I see this many times a year. Why are my sequences out of sync? Using a Bluetooth headphone? Yep, there's your problem. Now you got to fix everything. Wires and FM, they're going to have no latency. The audio is going to get there right when the pixels get there. Make sure you buy your MP3s from Amazon. Don't be a cheapskate and rip poor audio from YouTube. Just don't do that. It's going to have poor audio. Yes, you can afford $1 for a quality MP3 file. You can do it. Outdoor speakers. I recommend outdoor Polk or Klipsch. And if you're on a budget, you can use dual electronics. Those aren't half bad. Use an amplifier. Do not power these directly from the Sound Blaster or from your audio output. You can get home theater receivers. They're all day long. They're found cheap at thrift shops. Just buy one of those and you'll be good to go. Drock will also sells many inexpensive, small quality amplifier boards that can be powered by 12-volt power supplies and timers to create push for music. So yeah, they have different wattages of different ones. And if you already have 12-volt coming out from like one of your controller boards, just plug into there and you got an amplifier. So car audio delays. Some car systems have audio processing delays. And unfortunately, there is nothing you can do on your end to compensate for this, nor should you try. If you do see someone that has a car with some audio delays, try having them turn off any audio enhancements in their car. I've been running it since 2017, and I talk to my people all the time, and I've only seen it once on one person. It does happen, but unfortunately, there's not much you can do short of them turning off any enhancements, which hopefully may fix that on their end. So audio cables. Stock audio cables can often be poor. And also an audio cable will never fix incorrect gain, a poor sound card, or poor audio files. Make sure you use quality shielded cables. Good affordable brands are Monoprice, Cable Matters, Amazon Basics, though there are others. Make sure you look for something that says shielded to prevent EMI or RFI interference with gold connectors. Those are going to be the best. And then audio splitters are totally fine. So are Ethernet balance. It's a little adapter. You can plug an Ethernet cable to run audio cable really, really long. And you can easily run 50 feet or more of audio cable just fine. Just make sure you don't run them alongside pixel or power cords, or you can have interference. As long as they're separated by at least a foot, you're probably good to go. But you don't want them like bundled right next to each other. You can cross them at 90 degrees. That's no problem. Ferrite cores. These are going to help reject EMI and RFI interference. You want to make sure you wrap around a cable at least once when possible and place on each AC and audio line. And it's not going to perform miracles, but they do help. External mixers. In general, these are unnecessary unless you have a specific need. Go ahead and see what I said previously about equalization. Using an external mixer in an attempt to correct poor audio source is a bad idea. Like the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. Always start with a quality sound output first, upgrade your sound card, and optimize your gain. And then connectors. How in the world is all this stuff connected? Shane made a really cool little diagram here of how everything's connected, where to plug things into. I will have this in my link as well, but really cool to see how everything gets all plugged in together. All right, audio troubleshooting. Something's going on. What in the world do I do? Well, I can't anticipate every possible audio problem. Here are the most common ones. For the testing method, always start your testing at the source and move down the line. So you think you might have an FM issue? Start with the source. Is the issue present in the audio file? Many times the audio file itself has the issue. Throw it into Audacity, take a look, and listen to it. Is the issue present at the sound output? Plug headphones into your sound output directly. Is the issue present at the FM transmitter? Test with a different FM receiver. Though car radio is, in the viewing area is often going to be best. A lot of people will only test their FM transmitter with one receiver or with one car. Try different cars, try different receivers. You'd be surprised that some receive a lot better or worse than others. Clipping and distortion. A quality FM transmitter cannot compensate for a bad sound card or bad levels. So check your output levels, because clipping can occur at the audio file, it can occur at the sound card, it can occur at the FM transmitter, it can also occur in the final output, such as the car stereo or the speakers. So starting with the source, including the audio file, move down the line. When in doubt, turn your outputs down just a little bit, like reduce them in increments of 5 if you're unsure. And then check how your plugs are connected. Are you plugged into the aux or line in and not the mic? You don't want to plug into the mic. And then start over, re-optimize your gain levels. It doesn't take that long to optimize them, so go ahead and start over again. So static, starting with the source, including the audio file, see if the static exists. Do you have a poor antenna? Try a different antenna or check for any cable damage. Check the connectors, check antenna ground. Make sure your antenna is grounded. If it's not, that could also cause issues. Mount the antenna higher. Try a different antenna. Try a higher output level on the FM transmitter. Do you have electrical interference? Try turning off other nearby electrical devices or cables. I've seen people where they have different devices in their garage, like a refrigerator or whatever. It would cause interference. So, turn off those things and see if the issue goes away. Use a USB extension cord to move the sound card and FM transmitter away from other electronics. You could also try a different radio receiver, as not all radios are the same. Interference. Try a different FM frequency. Try a different antenna location or a different antenna. Try a different FM receiver. You can also try separating the transmitter and audio device from other electronics. Use a USB extension cable to separate from the sound card. And then double check. Are you sure you're not using an overpowered FM transmitter? Also, metal, brick, and glass can interfere. Turn off other devices one at a time to find the source of the interference. And then ferrite cores are going to help reject interference. Maybe you have a ground loop. Some USB 3 gig hubs and network cards can also cause interference. So if that's the case, try using a USB 2 100 megabit hub instead. And again, I'll have the links in the page. So what if you have like dull, flat, or lifeless audio? If you're using lower bitrate audio files, YouTube rips, or files that have been recompressed multiple times, this is going to severely degrade the audio. In this case, there's no way to recover from low bitrate or recompressed audio. The damage is already been done.
Flex by Mouse
So,
developed.
Can people mute their mics, please?
Got it.
Recompressing the audio will also degrade it further. And you want to make sure you seek original, higher quality audio files. So go ahead and spend that $1 and buy the MP3 from Amazon. Onboard and generic audio cards are going to take the life out of audio, so make sure you use a sound blaster. You could also have possible interference, so try a different FM channel. So the ground loop, I mentioned this briefly. This is a constant hum, a loud, low hum that you're going to hear in your audio. And this is caused by being connected to 2 different paths to ground. So move things around so they plug into a common AC outlet. You can also use an electrical tester to make sure your outlet show is correct. And you can also try a ground loop isolator, but it also may reduce audio quality. Still better than having a ground loop, though. All right, power. More power. In some cases, you do need more power. Inadequate Raspberry Pi power. So the Pi requires adequate power to operate properly. Otherwise, weird issues are going to occur. And those are the amperage that each one of the Pis needs. Adding more USB devices is going to draw more power, even if the Pi appears to be okay. Daniel Culp just added a Pi voltage checker in FPP8. So if you see this message in FPP, you have inadequate power. In that case, power problems can cause random reboots, USB devices like the Sound Blaster disconnecting or not showing up. So don't reuse old AC adapters or USB power cables you have just lying around. Bad USB cables and underpowered Pis are all too common. I see this so often. Make sure you get quality ones. And when in doubt, replace USB power and USB cable with new quality ones. You know the drill. See the links on my page. Too much FM power. If you have a transmitter that's higher than half a watt, this is going to cause interference and it could knock out USB devices or cause them not to show up. And yes, a 5 watt or 7 watt can often be cheaper, but don't be tempted. I don't recommend using an FM transmitter over half a watt as you're going to have all sorts of weird issues. If you need to separate your FM transmitter from your Pi, it's overpowered. Properly powered, they can be placed next to each other without any issue. All right, we're almost done. Hang in there. So just to recap, audio output. Use quality audio files from a reputable source, Amazon. Avoid YouTube rips. Use quality USB cables and power adapters. Avoid recompressing when possible. Use high bitrate to resave. Normalize audio files if needed. And make sure with MP3 gain, it will raise or lower the gain. Optionally, use Smart Volume and the Sound Blaster software if you're running your show from a computer. Use quality sound card, the Sound Blaster Play 3. Avoid generic and built-in audio. Avoid any audio enhancements. Set the EQ to flat. Only EQ if you have control over the final output source, such as loudspeakers. With the FM transmitter, always plug into aux or line in. Turn down or off the mic input. Mount antenna at head level or higher and or use a better antenna. Use ferrite cores on AC and quality shielded audio cables. Choose a free FM frequency between that range and only transmit as far as you need to. Don't use higher wattage FM transmitters. Test for sound issues starting at the source and move down the line. Make sure you optimize your gain. Use a test tone, 100 hertz at 0 dB. Make sure FPP is set at 70, computer set at 100. And then turn the final listening device, such as your car or speakers, to low. And then turn up the FM transmitter gain until it distorts, and then back down until you hear no more distortion. And then go ahead and leave that there. Again, here's the links. I'm going to list all the links and websites for everything, and I'm going to keep this up to date. So this is all you need. Just go there. I'll have everything. And yes, I've been known to cause Amazon stock issues, and I'm going to list alternatives whenever possible. And just a thanks. I've received a whole lot of thanks since I've been starting doing this audio, and it's really, really improved people's shows. I've been to a lot of shows, and I've really heard the difference. And then a shout out to some of the other people who have given additional testing and input in this. So thanks, everyone. All right. Right on time. Look at that. Any questions?
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes for questions. That was an outstanding presentation, by the way. Thank
you very much.
Anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself with your questions.
10 minutes. I'm early. Well, I did simplify this.
I have a question about Audacity usage.
Yes.
So I've started using Audacity to try and help with audio. In Audacity, what is the difference between amplify, loudness normalization, and normalization, and which one should I be using?
So it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to raise the volume, really that's just basically a volume control over the entire audio file. So that's going to be amplification. When you do your normalization, it will ask you, do you want to normalize to 0 dB? That's usually the default. That's usually what I recommend. And what it's going to do is it's going to look over the entire audio file and find the loudest part, and it's going to move that up to 0 dB and move everything else accordingly. So let's just say, for example, you had an audio file that was completely, like really, really low, and you had one part that was super loud. It's only going to care about the super loud part, and it's going to move it to 0 dB. Like when I was doing my voiceover, I would take it and I would amplify it to a certain point, or I would more normalize it to a certain point. There's also a thing called compression in there. And I'm not talking about exporting to MP3. Have you heard about that, or do you have questions about that?
Yeah, the compressor, a little bit. I've just recently started trying to understand that and educate myself on it, because I do have a handful of audio tracks where the difference between the quiet parts of the song and the loud parts of the song are so great.
Yes.
That if you set your volume level, the quiet parts of the song almost completely cut out. And if you turn your volume, the gain up to where you get those to where you can hear them, then it's clipping at the loud end.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, for that one, you don't want to, like, if you have a song like that, It's really comes down to a personal preference. So I have one of those songs where it does have those quiet parts and it does have those loud parts. For me, I prefer to have those quiet parts and to have those loud parts because that's what the author intended. I personally leave it that way. Other people don't like that. They want the quiet parts to be louder. So in that case, you can do what's called an audio compressor. And what that's going to do is it will look at the entire audio file and it will see, oh, here's a lower part of the audio file. I'm going to raise that up higher. Here's a higher part of the audio file. I'm going to put that down a little bit lower. So it will alter the dynamic range. That's actually one part I took out in this video because it doesn't come up all the time and it does get, just slightly more advanced into doing this. And most people really don't need to do it. But if you do have audio files like that, you can run it through a compressor. And a lot of it's just kind of finessing it to sound how you like. And in Audacity, especially with the newest version, there are a lot of presets for the compressor. So what I recommend you do is just throw your audio file. If you have one of those songs that's like really, really quiet, and then you have really, really loud parts, throw it into the compressor, select some of the presets. The presets are probably going to be your best instead of playing with all the varied settings. Run it through it, see what it sounds like. If that sounds great for you, export it to an MP3 and run it in your show. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sounds like Audacity is kind of like X-Lights, where you just kind of start playing around with it and see what happens. And if you like it, good.
Yeah, especially with the compression. I mean, it's not one of those things where it's like, hey, just use this and there it is. Now, for those people, I know most people run FPP, but if you're using the Sound Blaster from a PC or Mac, that's what that smart volume does. And I've played with it. It actually does a superb job, an excellent job. So if you're running it from your computer, you turn on that smart volume and boom, your audio files are going to be dynamically changed up and down, and it's just going to sound very, very nice.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the help.
You're welcome.
I got a quick question. Actually, it's a question that was thrown in chat by Pixels on Pathfinder. Is there a recommended distance with regards to the dipole antenna and the FPP?
The distance from like your equipment?
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you right now, I literally have my FPP switch, FM transmitter, controller in a box, all literally on top of each other, with my dipole antenna, again, literally to the left of it, with my Unify Wi-Fi device strapped on top of it. I have zero issues, zero interference, nothing. Usually the interference is going to occur if you're running higher wattage stuff. If you're running proper power and you have proper shielding, you're not going to have any issues. But if you need to separate them, you can separate them. But if you're having to separate them, you could be running too much power or not having properly shielded cables and such.
Okay. Because I usually use my equipment out by the road, and I'm just wondering, just to kind of hide the antenna, how far away could I place the antenna from where the transmitter is?
If you have a wide field, antennas and radio waves basically operate line of sight. So if you can see it, you're probably going to hit it, even on low power. So that's usually the best thing to do. If you can mount it high, like I know I was helping someone, they were on a farm and they had people that were really far away. And it's like, well, where do I put my FM transmitter? I said, do you have a high podder on your barn? They said, yes, put it up there. They put it up there, hits everyone perfectly.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah, you can try it. If you have it, put it in a box on the ground, but higher is usually going to be better.
Well, right along with what you just said, if I put the antenna, say, up in a tree, how far away can I put the actual transmitter itself that it's hooked up to?
You can run a cable pretty far, but if you put it in a tree is going to absorb a lot of radio waves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to keep that in mind. If it's like a dead tree with not a lot of branches, you're probably going to be fine, but trees and foliage will absorb radio waves.
Okay, because this is a big old maple tree. Usually when I do my shows, it has no leaves on it, but it's got a whole lot of branches.
Yeah, you can try it. Again, the best thing to do is just try and test it because radio propagation, it really depends on a lot of factors that I can't factor in. I can tell you all the major things like mounting it up high, make sure, avoid things, trees, foliage, glass, brick, things like that. But you can try it. I mean, in many cases, just it being higher may overcompensate from any leaves that you have.
Jason,
on the other side, I have a flagpole. I can just mount it on that. All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Jason, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to throw in for that last person that was asking, a
Mhm.
trick you can use for hanging an antenna in a tree is throw a string over a branch, and instead of putting the antenna actually in the tree, suspend it from that string so it's actually in open air.
That's a good
I
point.
gotcha.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
All right. Great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, but like with radio waves, I mean, for example, just this last weekend, I mean, I was up in the mountains of San Bernardino, and I'm a ham radio operator, and I was talking all the way to Knott's Berry Farm with just my little handheld transmitter. I mean, line of sight.
Ham radios are kick butt.
Mhm.
Hey, Jason, another quick
Yes.
question about antennas.
Mhm.
So everybody usually recommends making that custom dipole as you showed, but have you tried any of the like pre-made dipoles, adjustable dipoles that exist on like Amazon or AliExpress? I mean, they kind of look like the old TV Rabbit antennas, right? But they're
Yeah,
straightforward, just a dipole pre-made.
yeah,
Any thoughts on
those are mainly receivers. Those are mainly receivers who are not going to transmit well. They're not that great. I have not found a good mid-range antenna for a transmitter that's really a good recommendation. I mean, I would love to find one on Amazon that would work, but I just haven't. But that dipole DIY one, it just works so well. I know there's some other ones, other antennas that are like a ground plane antenna and things like that. They're more expensive, but they do need to be mounted properly, and not everyone can do that. So that's why I usually recommend the build yourself dipole. If I find a better one, I will put it in my show links. Absolutely.
Got it. Thanks.
Hey, I had a question about radio transmitters.
Mhm.
So I've collected a number over the years, the CZE-05B, the Retecus, the Science Tech, etc. Would I see an appreciable benefit to going to the rolls to get the correct emphasis, or is that not worth it?
Are you in North America?
Yes.
Okay, it does have better treble. It does have better treble, but it definitely has less range. So you will need to have a good antenna. Really a personal preference. I mean, I have like all the transmitters myself as well, and the Science Tech works really, really good. I can get away with the rolls, and I do like the higher audio quality, but it does reduce my range. So I may need to redo how I mount my antenna for that. So it really is a personal preference. It is going to sound better for the North America. I will say that. But like I said, the disadvantage is the range.
Along those lines, Jason, with that transmitter, because I'm seriously thinking of moving to it after Steve Gilson's videos. I have a 7-foot tall J pole. I just put the link into the chat in case you want to add it to your links.
Mhm.
That J pole is tuned to my frequency, so it's like dead on accurate. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how the low power rolls into a massive J pole like that would perform.
It's probably going to perform pretty well.
with distance and such.
The trick with radio distance is you either increase the power, you get a better antenna, or you put the antenna in a better location. You put all those factors together, you're going to have good range and coverage.
Okay.
All right, we're at time, and I want to be respectful to get the next person in, and I also have to bounce the room so I can get co-host privileges set up. Jason, you can stop the recording. I want to thank you again for your presentation and everybody for participating. If you have other questions, you can probably reach out to Jason directly or catch him in maybe one of the lounges at the end of the day.
Yep, feel free to reach out to me. I have my information in that QR code. All right, thanks
Thanks
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. This was great.